Hello and welcome to Action Playbook Live. This is the new NFL pregame show on Sunday mornings here at Action Network. We've got a lot to cover for week two, so I've got the best people to help me, all the heavy hitters. We're going to cover a ton of bets over the next hour. We've got a ton of player props, touchdown bets, parlays. We're going to have the latest luck rankings from Dr. Nick Giffen, and Evan Abrams, our director of research here at Action Network, will give us some of the latest betting trends and market moves for week two. But joining me off the hop are two of the sharpest bettors, most accurate fantasy rankers in the game today, Sean Kerner and Chris Raybon. Sean, I wanted to ask you a question about week one to week two, because right now, looking at the Action Network app, I'm seeing you have, I think, at least 12 bets in this week, as opposed to kind of week one where we're still kind of feeling it out. I wanted to know, does this feel kind of more like the actual real week one for you?
Oh yeah. Absolutely. I kind of call week one, week four the preseason, because we're not really we're going off of beat reports, practice reports, speculation, preseason usage, last year's stats. So just having 1 week of data is massive for my process, and it allows people to over or underreact to 1 week of data as well. So I love week two.
Yeah, and Raybon, I was going to ask you about the overreaction angle because I find a lot of the time we see some of these players break out in week one, and then sometimes their prop lines might get inflated or maybe deflated depending on how the outcome went. I just wanted to know from a week two standpoint, how do you approach props? Because I imagine there's a lot of overreaction in the market.
Yeah, I think you look at efficiency a little more than usual. Like a play I'm going to talk about some efficiency because coaches are making adjustments too. And one thing I know is that, highly drafted wide receivers, first round picks tend to go off in week two a lot more so than in week one. So that's another angle I'll be looking at.
Awesome. All right. So we're going to give out some player props to start off. But before we do, I want to talk about Action Pro because if you want access to all of Action Pro projections, make sure to sign up for an annual subscription because access includes exclusive player prop picks from Sean Kerner, Chris Raybon, all the members of the Action Analytics team, some anytime touchdown projections, and you also get access to our best spread money line and total bets, along with real ticket and money percentages. To sign up, visit actionnetwork.com/pro today. Use code POD20 at sign up. One more time, that's POD20 at sign up for $20 off. All right, gentlemen, let's get started here. Kerner, why don't you kick us off? What is your favorite player prop for week two?
Well, like you said, I gave out 13 props yesterday. A lot of them have moved since then, but this one's only dropped a few yards, so I'm going to go with this one. Russell Wilson, under 213 and a half passing yards. Last week the Giants trailed for 52 minutes, which was the fourth highest rate of week one, and they were down two scores at halftime. So this was a very pass-heavy trailing game script, and Russ still only managed to throw for 168 yards. The underlying metrics really showed a conservative attack under Dable's scheme. He only averaged 5.7 air yards per attempt, which is way lower than his career average of 9.4. And he only attempted one pass 20 plus yards downfield, which is rare for him because he typically leads on check downs and then his famous moonball down the field. Week one is pretty much all check downs. He also scrambled 6 times, so he's using his legs a lot more this late in his career. So it's just going to be tougher for him to clear, 210 yards with that kind of usage, even in a trailing game script like that. So today, there's a chance the Giants keep it close. They're 6 point dogs here, so even just a neutral game script, they should be a little bit more balanced, lean on the run a bit more, and then just if they get down two plus scores early again, it's a negative, pass heavy trailing game script. I think that's where we could see, him get benched for Jackson Dart. I still set the odds of that really low, like 5%, but it at least, gives us an escape hatch if it does, get into a pass heavy game script. So I like Russ to stay under 213 and a half passing yards today.
Okay. And so if you're watching the show live today, check the YouTube chat because we are putting quick slip links after every bet that we give out. And I say this because a lot of the time with the props that Kerner and Raybon give out, they move quickly. So you want to be able to get them as soon as possible. So you were on Russell Wilson under 213 and a half passing yards. Raybon, it's your turn. What kind of prop do you like for week two?
I'm going with Kenny Gainwell under 8.5 carries. And he was featured a lot more than people thought. Kind of expected that coming out of the preseason, but very inefficient in week one. And Arthur Smith was kind of complaining and about his run game, and they've been complimenting Gainwell as far as the passing game and special teams. So that tells me that they'll probably give Jalen Warren more carries in this game. They'll probably give the rookie Caleb Johnson more carries in this game. Gainwell, just a 28% success rate on his runs in week 1 compared to 46% for Jalen Warren. And if you go back to last season, out of 62 runners with 75 or more carries, Gainwell was dead last, 62 out of 62 in rush success rate. So he struggled on the ground, but he's a very versatile player. So I'm forced that fumble. So a lot of other ways to get him involved, but I don't think he's as big a part of the run game for the Steelers in this one.
Raybon, I got a gripe to pick with you, man, because when we did the Touchdown Show podcast and I had this game, I talked about how I wasn't really loving the touchdown market, and I'm not sure. And you said, well, what about Kenneth Gainwell? And then here we are Sunday morning with an under 8.5 rush attempts. So it's glad to see that you're finally coming around, that maybe Kenneth Gainwell, maybe his role is decreasing a little bit in this
It's
offense.
the over-adjustment by the market. Like at first, the market didn't realize that he was essentially their lead back. But now that, it's come out that, hey, he wasn't actually that good at it, and the coach is talking,
For sure.
Now it's gone the opposite way.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I'm very much sensitive on the odds too. And his touchdown odds completely dropped as the week went on. Like, it's one thing when we were looking at it when it was like 7-1, but now I think it's like hovering around 3-1, which is not really the value that I like here. But one player I do like the value on, and it's an anytime touchdown market. I love AJ Brown for an anytime touchdown this week. Like, I know obviously he only saw one target in week 1. I know he's probably dealing with a little bit of a hamstring injury, and I know obviously the Eagles will run the ball at the 3rd highest rate in the NFL, but there's still, I can't pass on him at these odds. He has just crushed man defense in his career. His yards per route run and his target share versus that coverage is always typically like top 3 in the NFL. Dallas Goedert is out. And just from a touchdown odds tracking standpoint, because I've tracked the odds for all 43 regular season games that he has played, this is the highest touchdown odds he has ever had. It was plus 150 last year against the Commanders of week 17, a game that he did go on to score. So I like AJ Brown for an anytime touchdown bet. And as I said, all of these bets, you can find quick slip links in the YouTube chat if you want to tail that. So that's not going to be the last touchdown pick we'll give out today. We got touchdown show portion. Nick Giffen is going to join me a little bit later in the show. But Raybon, Kerner, why don't you guys take a quick breather? We'll get back here in a minute. We now welcome to Action Playbook Live, Derek Carty, creator of the Blitz projections for the NFL. You've probably seen him at a lot of different places. He's also been crushing baseball with player prop projections with the Bat X. You've probably seen him as a guest on the Payoff Pitch with Sean Zarillo. And you can follow him in the Action app at Derek Carty. Derek Carty, all one word. And remember, much like Kerner and Raybon, because of his prop projections, he's going to be giving out some edges here. And those odds are going to move. And that's why it's very important. We have quick slip links in the YouTube chat if you want to tail these bets, making sure that you get the best odds. So Derek, welcome to Action Playbook Live.
Thanks for having me on. I'm really excited to be a part of the show now.
Awesome. And right now you have 2 player props that you like for Sunday. And the first one is with Browns and Ravens. What do you like in that game?
I'm looking at Joe Flacco under half of a carry at plus 170 is the best odds that are available right now.
Okay.
But really any kind of plus money, if you can get it even plus 130, plus 140, this one shows a lot of value. Obviously, Joe Flacco is not a guy who's going to run very often, which is why it's set at half a carry. But I don't think there's much chance at all of him, because even the types of plays that quarterbacks like him can get carries on, he doesn't set up very well for them, specifically kneel downs. They are 11.5-point underdogs here against the Ravens. The chance of a Joe Flacco kneel down is very small. The blitz is projecting 1/3 of a kneel down. He's not a guy that they run a lot of quarterback sneaks for, even though he's been on lots of teams over the years. Over the last 8 years, he's played 41 games and he's had 8 QB sneaks. That's 1 every 5 games.
Yuck.
His chance of getting there is he's going to scramble. Hopefully he doesn't scramble. He's not a mobile guy. Blitz is projecting half a scramble, which brings us to, close to almost a coin flip call here that we're getting at really good plus money.
I mean, expecting a 40-year-old man to scramble in an NFL game is a lot. I mean, the one thing I would also say too, we have this running joke about who's the new like mall Santa for quarterbacks that Kirk Cousins, was kind of in that realm. I think Joe Flacco fits this criteria perfectly, and based on this bet, I think that's what we're banking on here for under a half rush attempt. So no rushing attempts for Joe Flacco today against the Ravens. That is Derek's first bet. So you have a second player prop now, and this is another guy who is probably more on the tail end of his career, and it's with the 49ers versus the Saints. What's that prop in that game you like?
I'm looking at Kendrick Bourne under half a reception at plus 155 is the best odds you can find right now. Kendrick Bourne was upset that he wasn't getting a lot of playing time with the Patriots. They kind of cast him off, signed on with the Niners, who he's been with before. But the quotes coming out of San Francisco this week make it seem like he's not going to be playing a whole lot. The quote I like the most, and this was in the Coach Speak Index Discord, so I reference where it came from because he's just fantastic. The quote was, a reporter asked about how involved he's going to get in the offense, and Shanahan said, "It always takes time. You hope to ease him in and put him in there when it's totally the right time," which sounds to me like he's probably not going to be playing a whole lot this first week. Isn't up to speed on the system yet. Even though they have been dealing with injuries, it does look like Juwan Jennings is probably going to play this week. They have MVS, they have Sky Moore, who have been on the team longer now than Bourne has. They have Jordan Watkins, who's healthy this week. So I'm hoping for just a few snaps for Kendrick Bourne and an easy under here.
Yeah, and with Mac Jones at quarterback, I wouldn't feel too high on the passing potential in this game. All right, so Derek, let's recap this. Two props from you. You like Joe Flacco under a half rush attempt. You have that around plus 170. And then the other bet you like is Kendrick Bourne under a half reception at plus 155. So make sure to follow in the Action app, Derek Hardy, best lettuce in the game. And that's me saying it. So I'm just telling you, his hair is awesome and he's going to be coming back next week. Derek, thanks for coming on Action Playbook Live.
Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Welcome back to Action Playbook Live, and we've got the luck rankings, and I'm joined by my good friend, Dr. Nick Giffen. You can read up on the luck rankings every week in the Action app, where he shows both the luckiest, unluckiest NFL teams based on what we saw on the field and with expected scores. Nick, welcome back to Action Playbook Live. First question I have to ask for you is, are those the 5 teams that kind of have the best matchup based on luck rankings this week? Explain it to me a little bit better.
Yeah, exactly. So, we now have a week of data, which of course Sean mentioned is huge in his process, but it's also huge in handicap and sides and totals. Totals more once we get into week 3 and beyond, but sides in the NFL. So those 5 that appeared on our graphic are the 5 luck-based matchups where we have a very unlucky team facing a more lucky team, and the gap is large enough that it qualifies for our luck rankings. Again, we revamped, I should say, the methodology a little bit this year. So we just have something called our luck score now, and all of these games clear a luck score of 1.45.
Yeah, and this is the 3.0 version of your luck rankings, right? Yeah. Okay. All right. So you've got a couple picks for us today. What is the first bet that you like for week 2?
Yeah, well, if you follow me in the Action app, you'll see just before the show, I tracked the New York Jets plus 6.5, but I only did that for half a unit because I want to do a half unit on their team total over 20.5 points. You can get that at plus 102. So, as the graphic showed, the Jets are the unlucky team in this matchup against the Buffalo Bills. We all know the Bills kind of lucky to win and come back against the Ravens, but the Jets were actually unlucky to lose against the Pittsburgh Steelers. So that gives this game a luck score of 2.02, meaning more than 2 standard deviations, essentially, away from a no luck game. So that gives us a B grade and a 58.5% luck-based cover percentage. So games with around a luck score of this tend to cover around 59% of the time. We also have something which we do with luck totals, but those kick in week 3 because in week 2, luck totals have a reverse signal, and this has a luck total of minus 1.32. So normally negative luck totals mean we want to bet the under because games were lucky to be higher scoring and you'd want to take the under, but that only starts in week 3. In week 2, we see a reverse signal. Anything below a minus 1.2 normalized luck total tends to go over 11, 4, and 2 to the over in week 2. So if we have an over and we have the Jets more likely to cover based off being the unlucky team, the only way that both of those happen is if the Jets score more than 20.5 points. Plus, I just like them to do that. They put up 32 against a Pittsburgh defense that was a top half defense last year, should be a top half defense this year. And that 32 was as expected. They had 31.5 by our expected score metric. And Buffalo just gave up 40. Yeah, it was to Lamar and the Ravens, but you get the idea. I think you can move the ball on this Buffalo defense. So I'm going to go Jets over their team total, 20.5 points.
What a reversal of fortune for Justin Fields too, right? Like think about all his time in Chicago and with Pittsburgh, and we were never really thinking if the offense could get going. And now we like him to score at least lead this team to 21 points here in week 2. So again, just a amazing turn here. Now you have a second bet, but you are looking to an NFC West team.
Yeah, so give me the Seattle Seahawks +3. I think there's an even money bet on that +3 versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. And of course, the Steelers, we just talked about them versus the Jets. They were lucky to, have that game, that win there against the Jets. And, Seattle is the unlucky team here. They lost to San Francisco in a really close game, giving up a score on San Francisco's last drive, not counting the kneel down they had to end the game there. So this luck score is 1.87. That gives us a C grade and a 57.5% luck-based cover percentage. And in week 2 through 4, so the early portion of the season is when the luck rankings really shine. Unlucky teams with a C, B, or A letter grade are 24, 9, and 2 against the spread. So really strong performance as long as you have at least a C grade, and Seattle gets that C grade this week. We talked about Pittsburgh, we talked about Seattle versus San Francisco. I think this is a spot where Seattle will have some possibly improvements. Second week of Sam Darnold with his new team. So I just think this is a good spot here. I think a little bit of perception is Pittsburgh. They're just coming off a win. They're at home. But I have these two teams much closer, and I don't think it should be 3 points of home field advantage here. So give me Seattle +3.
All right, so that is the luck rankings with Dr. Nick Giffen. I want to remind everybody that you have kind of like a breakdown of how to interpret the rankings as well. I think that's important, and you can check that on the Action Network app or on his profile, but also a weekly luck power rankings as well that gets published, and you can check that out on the Action Network app. So make sure to follow him, Nick_Giffen, for all of his bets and analysis. Nick, why don't you hang around for a little bit? You could join me, and we can do some touchdown bets, and we'll rip through our favorite ones for the day. All right, now if you're on Twitter, we have a great new feature at Action Network. It's called Playbook. If you see a bet from any of your favorite action experts or anyone on gambling Twitter or X, you can now tag Playbook under the post, and our AI bot will build you a bet slip at a sportsbook of your choice. It's that simple. You don't have to try and find what menu the bets are under or all the different parlay legs. This will provide you a quick link directly to the sportsbook where you can make that bet. So use Playbook and build your bets the easy way. All right, let's welcome in our Director of Research, Evan Abrams. This is my go-to guy when it comes to the latest betting trends and data. You can check out his weekly betting primer as well on the Action Network app for all the info you need to know going into week 2. I also wanted to say he's one of my favorite followers on Twitter because I find sometimes, Evan, you could tweet out something that provides like context of what we just witnessed. And I think of Sunday Night Football, where you find out that the Ravens, they have blown the second most double-digit lead since 2020. I was like, well, who could have passed that? And it was actually the 49ers that were at number 1. And I guess my biggest takeaway that I saw from that is like, well, you have to have a double-digit lead to blow it, I guess.
Yeah, the Kyle Shanahan stats are kind of endless in that situation. But let's move on to week 2. So this is overreaction week. We have 7 games that have moved 2+ points since the opener as of now. That would be tied for the most in a week 2 in the last 20 years of our data. So basically a lot of games moving from open, a lot of opinions out there. And one of the opinions, mostly based off of injury, would be San Francisco, who've moved from -7 to -3 on the road against New Orleans. Now, speaking of San Francisco and New Orleans, and I just tweeted this out, something really just has to give in this situation. So Spencer Rattler, 0-7 straight up in his career as a starter. But Kyle Shanahan, so 9-32 straight up in his career when he's without Purdy or Garoppolo, the two main quarterbacks he's kind of had in his tenure. That includes 3-20 straight up away from home. So not a great situation, obviously, in that one. Someone has to win. I'm actually watching the Jets game right now in terms of the line. So if the Jets get to +7, crazy home dogs of 7 or more. First 9 games, 18, 1-2 ATS since 2022. Just a ridiculous run. So those are kind of the trends I'm looking for, but we're going to give you a pick for Bet Labs. Which can you tell me there, Joe?
Well, I guess the first thing before we think
Yeah,
about that, because I was just thinking about the Rattler Mac Jones matchup that we're about to
sure.
witness here. And I just thought to myself, it feels really early in the season to be witnessing a backup quarterback matchup like that. So I'm just kind of dumbfounded that that's kind of one of the main games here for the 1 o'clock slate. But so you said you have a Bet Labs pick here. What are you looking at for week 2?
Yeah, so just looking at mostly a blanketed situation. So you lost in week 1, but you're an underdog in week 2, which really covers a lot of teams. But that has been 500 against the spread or better in 13 consecutive seasons, a 12% ROI. So basically, lose last week, you're an underdog this week. Right now, I believe there's like 11 games that kind of cover that, but basically looking for 6-5 or so against the spread in those games. Maybe a buy 2 round robin or something of that nature. But that's a system. And if you look on the money line, last 3 years for those underdogs, 13-13 straight up. So not so bad when you're a dog on that other side. Now, in terms of Bet Labs, I got that data from Bet Labs software itself, but there is a Discord right now, and it's only $20 a week to get in to the Bet Labs Discord. Now it's actually 50% off if you go to the Bet Labs Twitter. They have a code, so go check it out. And this is one of the systems we're looking at for this week, Joe.
All right, beautiful. All right, well, again, so we're going to be monitoring that Jets spread,
Yeah.
trying to see kind of what is the outcome here for the Niners and Saints, because like you said, something has got to give here. And another thing too is that week 2 angle. I think I feel like the public is kind of more on that angle now as far as that goes. Is like I feel like 5 years ago, like we used to be able to really capitalize on that, but like you said, over the last 3 years, even though people are more aware of it, it still seems to be hitting at a pretty decent rate. So I want you to make sure to check out Evan's weekly betting primer. It's something that I read every week. And also, he's going to be live tonight with Brandon Anderson for the week 2 recap show on the Action Network podcast. Evan, see you next week, buddy.
See you later, man.
All right, everyone. I want to take it up a notch. I want to play the lottery here. I need the help of both Grant Neefer and Sean Kerner here. Grant, you crush it daily with home run picks. I'm pretty sure I saw one of your recaps that you made like 45 units in home run bets just in the month of August. So again, somebody I always like to see what kind of touchdown bets that you're rolling with. He's in the Parlay Science Discord. He likes to find those plus EV parlays. So Grant, if you could give us a touchdown lotto parlay for us today, what should we do for week 2?
Yeah, I've got a long shot one here. Over 201 DK if you use a 30% profit boost they have. You can get it over 260 to 1. 4 legs, including a little same game parlay in there. First leg, Cedric Tillman plus 400 to score a touchdown. This just seems silly. I get that the Ravens are good. I get that they're favorite, but that also means Joe Flacco is going to pass a ton. Flacco, in his tenure with the Browns, going all the way back to 2023, has only thrown less than 42 pass attempts one time. Through 45 times last week. Their run game's terrible, and they're going up against the pass funnel, so the passing game is going to be huge here in terms of volume. And Tillman, we don't know who's going to be the wide receiver 1. I mean, Judy had a great year last year, but it could be Tillman, it could be Judy. Regardless, Tillman 8 targets last week. I think he could be in for some more this week as they're just going to be throwing the ball the entire time. Plus 400 odds, far too high. Next up, Bo Nix plus 450 to score a touchdown. Now, I know most of his touchdowns came at the beginning of the season last year, had 5 of them, 4 rushing, 1 receiving, and I think he's still going to continue running. He had 8 rushing attempts in week 1, playing in a dome, going up against a team where there's a 2.5-point spread against the Colts. So it should be a close game. I think he's going to run the ball a decent amount, and I think he has much better than a 18% chance of running the ball in. So plus 450 odds. Great value there. Next up, a little same game parlay for the third and fourth leg. Amon-Ra St. Brown to score a touchdown. DJ Moore to score a touchdown. Amon-Ra, you can get it plus 140. This guy is good. I know that for week 1, the Lions did not look great, but the Packers have looked fantastic, and I'm expecting a big bounce back game for him here. They are one of the best teams in the league. They are going to try and make a statement here. They're going to probably pass the ball a decent amount in the spot and try and run up the score. Goff obviously been way better at home, and Amon-Ra scored 11 touchdowns in 17 games, or scored in 11 out of 17 games last year. Guy's a touchdown machine, so getting plus 140 in this spot at home seems silly to me. And then DJ Moore plus 210. We don't know if it's going to be Rome. We don't know if it's going to be DJ. They did not look great the last 3 quarters of the last game, but I don't really know exactly what's going to happen. There's too many unknowns here. Ben Johnson could turn it around, especially going up against his former team. Lions, one of the best run Ds in the league. Big pass funnel. Game script, 6.5 point dog. Going to have to pass even more. DJ Moore should be heavily involved. Plus, he was involved in the running game last week, 3 rushes. So, going to be involved in both facets of the game. Plus 210, 2 high odds. Parlay all of them together. Again, over 200 to 1 over a DK. And if you use that boost, over plus or over 260 to 1. Absolutely silly odds.
Yeah, I mean, Grant, you're out here trying to create generational wealth here with this kind of prop or this kind of parlay here, 200 to 1. My Lord. Okay. And like you said, there are some sweat-free tokens out there that might be a good idea to use this if you have those too as well, or even a profit boost. So, Grant, 4 legs. You got Cedric Tillman, Bo Nix, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and DJ Moore. If you parlay all 4 of those at DraftKings right now, you can get it at 200 to 1. Sean, you got a parlay for us as well. And last week we did kind of rookie receiving yard props. This one, you look like you're kind of looking at the reception market for some of these. What do you like?
Yeah, so these are 4 plays I'm already on, but I still think they're all showing value. And the first one's Travis Hunter, over 4.5 receptions. I want to invest in Hunter's reception market early right now because just the way Liam Cohen was using him in week 1, he's just scheming up ways to get the ball in his hands. He had 3 screen passes. Those are, the easiest way to just get gimme receptions. And this should be kind of a shootout. So even more reason for them to throw more. So love Hunter over 4.5 receptions. And then Breece Hall under 2.5 receptions. Breece, operated as the clear lead back on early downs, but it was actually Isaiah Davis who operated in the pass catching back role. And with the Jets, being an extreme run heavy offense, I think, Hall's going to be great on the ground here, but, his receiving upside could be limited if this usage holds. And then next up is Kyron Williams over 74.5 rushing yards. This is just a spot where I think Kyron's going to see massive volume, probably 20 plus carries, but he's probably going to be more efficient than usual as well, just because this Titans defense does struggle on inside runs, and that's really where Kyron thrives. So, like Kyron over here. And then AJ Barner, under 19.5 receiving yards. If you don't know who he is, he's the Seahawks lead tight end. But this is going to be a very run-heavy offense this season with JSN dominating targets. So when Barner does see the occasional targets, typically around the line of scrimmage. So I think the way to fade him here is under 19.5 receiving yards. All these pay out around, plus 1090. So like the odds we're getting on this as well.
Happy to report, I know who all 4 of these guys are. You won't catch me napping with Isaac Tesla or anything like that. So, yeah, no. Okay. So I just want to recap that parlay again. So Travis Hunter over 4.5 receptions, Breece Hall under 2.5 receptions, Kyron Williams over 74.5 rushing yards with AJ Barner under 19.5 receiving yards. You can get that around 1090 at DraftKings. So Grant, you've got our touchdown lotto parlay set up. Kerner, you got the edges on edges stacked parlay. So as always, we drop quick slips in the YouTube chat. So this will save you some time so you don't have to build the parlay from Grant or Kerner. You can just bet the bet slip immediately and it'll take you right to the sports book. So Grant, keep crushing it with the home runs and the touchdowns. We'll see you next week, and we'll see you also with Bet What Happens Live and on Action Island soon enough. Okay, Kerner, let's get Raybon back here. Let's talk about Sunday Night Football. All right, Falcons, Vikings. Vikings, home favorites, 3.5, total 44.5. Guys, I think we should just build the same game parlay for this. And Kerner, we've kind of already talked about some of the receiving prop markets already for the Vikings, but you look like you're going to be fading somebody on that front.
Yeah, I'm fading, our fantasy flex favorite. Usually when Raybon takes him to score a touchdown, he does, but I'm going to go with Jalen Naylor under 2.5 receptions. You can get that at around minus 140, but I think within a parlay, it's a great thing to add in. But Naylor's going to be out there pretty much every drop back JJ McCarthy takes today. He's operating as the clear number 2 wide receiver while Jordan Addison serves his 3-game suspension. However, he's going to typically be like the number 3, number 4 target behind Justin Jefferson, TJ Hawkinson, and then, Thielen or Aaron Jones, depending on who's in the game. Plus, I expect the Vikings to just lean on the run even more here, as, Kevin O'Connell's going to try to insulate McCarthy as much as he can earlier in the season. And then when Naylor does get a target, it's typically downfield. Last week, his one target was 19 yards downfield, caught it for 28 yards. So I'm not interested in fading him in the receiving yard market.
Right.
But when it comes to receptions, I'm projecting him closer to 1.9. So I think the way to kind of fade him here is the under 2.5 receptions.
All right. So Jalen Naylor under 2.5 receptions. Kerner, I have to ask, are we making this an official, or is this more of a lean for Sunday night and to use as a leg for the parlay?
Well, we'll see. This is a little too juicy to make official. Again, I think this is great to throw in like a same game parlay.
For sure.
And I kind of like how it jives with your guys' bets. But I'll have to dive in and see where I go with the official play later. It might be this one. Who knows?
All right. So that's the first leg of the same game parlay. Raybon, you're up. What is your favorite bet for Sunday Night Football?
Going with the Atlanta Falcons, plus 3.5. Brian Flores, you have to be able to beat the blitz. And Michael Penix has been great versus the blitz. He was 9 of 13 for $128 last week with a touchdown, nearly 10 yards an attempt against the blitz, a 126 passer rating, 53 career dropbacks against the blitz for Penix, no turnover worthy plays, and just 1 sack taken. And he's done that with Darnell Mooney only available half the time. Mooney is off the injury report for this one. So Penix, I think, is set up for success here. And then on the other side, Atlanta's defense, I think it's a little underrated. Held Bucky Irving to just 2.5 yards per touch, although he did get in the end zone. Held Baker Mayfield to under 5 net yards per attempt. Mike Evans to just 51 yards and 8 targets. And yeah, Mecca Ibuka went off, but he's a very talented receiver. And, to Sean's point, Jalen Naylor, Adam Thielen, Tim Jones, whoever they throw out there, no real Ibuka. And they may even match it well with Hawkinson because Otten, 31 routes, 0 catches, cardiac king there. So I think this Atlanta team and defense is one to buy in on now. And the most important thing is probably they gave up on Younghoe Koo, at least for now. They got Parker Romo in there. And Parker Romo, 11 out of 12 field goals in his career, small sample, but his kicks came with Minnesota. So he's familiar kicking in this stadium. The line you're still getting the hook here. And remember, you got Penix, who's been, balling out, beating the blitz. JJ McCarthy was impressive last week, but he's still only got 1 good NFL quarter to his name. This is the second straight primetime game to open his career. The first time he's going to be playing on short rest. And according to our Action Labs data, when you have a road dog up against the home favorite on short rest in primetime, the road dog 49, 24, and 3, 67% against the spread for a smooth 30% ROI over the past 2 decades plus. So love this one. And of course, most importantly, got to shout out my guy, Dr. Nick Giffen. This is the top luck rankings edge on the slate as well. So heartbreaking loss for the Falcons, but now hopefully Younghoe Koo can't hurt us here. Love the Falcons up to a field goal.
Yeah, let's take the luck out of the equation and move Younghoe Koo out of the starting lineup here. Yeah, all right. So we have Falcons plus 3.5. We're pairing that with Jalen Naylor under 2.5 receptions. You know me, I'm going to do an anytime touchdown prop, and I'm taking Drake London. I think Drake London is primed for a great matchup here. 15 targets in week 1, 2 in the end zone. Led the Falcons in target share and yards per route run against zone coverage in each of the last 2 seasons. And the Vikings, they played zone at a top 5 rate in week 1. That was more of a carryover under Brian Flores of what we saw in 2024, where they were 6th in the NFL. And the Vikings, they've got a couple injuries in the secondary. Jeff Okudah, Van Ginkel is out. So bottom 3 in targets, catches, and touchdowns allowed to wide receivers last year. So I think Drake London coming in this game with no injury designation as well. I think he is primed to score his first touchdown of the year. So if we parlay those 3 together, comes out to around plus 500. And so that is Drake London for an anytime touchdown, Falcons plus 3.5, Jalen Naylor under 2.5 receptions. And we just dropped a link in the YouTube chat. That way you can immediately build this parlay and get it added to your bet slip. All right, Kerner, Raybon, you guys can take a break. You're done for today. Don't forget to check out the Fantasy Flex podcast with those 2. That comes out 3 times a week. Also, the 3 of us, we now do a podcast every Friday. It's the Touchdown Show podcast on the Action Network podcast feed. We give touchdown bets for every game. But now, let's bring back my good friend, Dr. Nick Giffen, because it's time for the touchdown show. And this week we had to, if we're going to be doing the touchdown show, Nick, I had to bring you back. You're a touchdown show OG. And for anybody who follows or watches the touchdown show, we're going to stick with the same format. It's kind of mild, medium, and spicy. So what that means, mild, any bet that we like below plus 200, medium is kind of plus 200 to plus 400, and spicy is anything over 5-1. And then we'll finish it off with a nice anytime touchdown parlay. Now, Nick, you crushed it with your touchdown picks last week. What is your first touchdown bet that you like for week 2?
Yeah, well, we're going to have to call this one the red zone bet, I guess, Shield, because that was what it was called when we did the touchdown show in 2022.
Yes, it was.
But I'm going to go to Rams Titans. Kyron Williams, give me the first Rams team touchdown. You can get that at plus 195. This is the KISS method. Keep it simple, stupid. Kyron Williams has scored a touchdown in 13 of 19 games for the Rams since the start of last year. That includes the playoffs. All 13 times he has scored a touchdown. He also scored the Rams' first team touchdown. Rams are favored by 5.5. Do you think he's going to get a touchdown? I do.
That stat to me is wild. And obviously just shows maybe just how, not necessarily obvious, but kind of what to expect with this Rams offense. That when they get in close, they give it to Kyron, and Kyron has just been a touchdown machine since he's entered the NFL. So I love that to get us started, especially on the first team touchdown at plus 190. I'm going to start us off with Rome Odunze. I took him last week in that primetime matchup. I'm going back to him because he scored in week 1. He led the Bears in routes run, overall targets. He's also done well against man coverage in his career. He's shown that he can win in those one-on-one matchups, and the Lions, I mean, they pretty much ran it back. They're playing man defense at the top rate in the NFL after week 1, similar to what we saw last year. So if Caleb Williams can just get back on track, and I think they could be in line for a huge passing day, especially as a trailing game script of 6.5-point dogs here. So Rome Odunze is my, I guess technically my second touchdown bet of the day, since I already gave out AJ Brown, but I love Rome Odunze just as much. Nick, we talked about this one. I've already tailed you on this touchdown bet. What is your next one for week 2?
Yeah, and Grant gave it out as part of his parlay, but
Yes, sir.
I tracked this one in the Action app a couple days ago, plus 375. It moved to 4-1. Now it's back to plus 370, plus 375 as we're, recording the show right here now. Cedric Tillman, anytime touchdown. In 5 games since becoming the full-time starter, not counting the game where he left early due to injury, Tillman has had a floor of 47 receiving yards and a touchdown in 3 of those 5 games. Which is 4 total touchdowns because he had a multi-touchdown game. Baltimore last week played the most similar defensive scheme, if you look at all the different coverages, to Cincinnati in week 1, and he scored a touchdown against Cincinnati last week. And last year played the most similar defensive schemes to Cincinnati, again, when you look at all the different coverages. Well, against Cincinnati and Baltimore, which has been 3 of his 5 starts, he has lines of 7, 99, and a touchdown. He has 881, no touchdown, and 552 and a touchdown. So touchdowns in 2 of 3, a floor of 52 yards, a ceiling of 99. Love Cedric Tillman this week.
Cedric Tillman, it's such a interesting situation in Cleveland because of everybody. I was on David Njoku last week, and then they're bringing in Harold Fannin and they're bringing in Dylan Sampson, and so Jerry Judy's wide receiver 1, but Cedric Tillman's the one who's getting the touchdown. And so I think right now Cedric Tillman has the best matchup of the week. I love the odds here, especially for getting it at 4-1 for Cedric Tillman. One guy that I'm going to take Tyler Warren at plus 320. I think it's around plus 280 right now. I wouldn't bet it below plus 250 if anybody's looking to tail. But Tyler Warren, week 1, he led the Colts in target share as a rookie, which is pretty impressive. 7 receptions, end zone target. He ran a route on 85% of Daniel Jones' dropbacks. And you're on Josh Down receptions. This is similar to why I'm looking at Tyler Warren as well, because I think it's going to be a tough sled for the outside receivers and Michael Pittman and Alec Pierce. So I think anything over plus 300 is amazing for Tyler Warren. I tracked that on Friday. And I think also if he scores this week, we might not see plus 300 again for the rest of the season. So I kind of want to get ahead of that market before he gets into the end zone. So Tyler Warren for an anytime touchdown is my second or third, I guess, touchdown bet of the show. Nick, let's kick it up to the spicy ranks here. And you are looking at Sunday Night Football.
I sure am. If you want to throw this into your parlay as well for the Sunday night game, give me Michael Penix Jr. for a touchdown, plus 850. Penix in 4 career starts has 2 touchdowns. So it's already a 50% touchdown rate. Obviously that's not sustainable, but you get the idea. He can score some touchdowns. And last week, week 1, Minnesota gave up a scramble touchdown to Caleb Williams and almost a second scramble touchdown to Caleb Williams that broke my heart because I had him for a second half
You were
touchdown.
all over it though, man.
And then if we look at Penix's 9 non-kneel rushes in his career, 8 of them have been scrambles, and we just talked about Minnesota giving up scramble touchdowns. The other one was a QB sneak from the 1-yard line, which is, a touchdown type play as well. So all 9 of his runs have been types of plays where you can score a touchdown. Plus 4 of his 9 runs have come inside the 5-yard line. So I'm projecting closer to 6.5 to 1 as fair value on Michael Penix Jr. to get a touchdown.
Yeah, the value on him to start the week was closer to like 10 to 1. It started to decrease as we get closer to kickoff. But anything over 8 to 1 is probably amazing value, especially considering you have fair closer to about plus 650. We're starting to see some injury news come out now. Seattle, they're going to be missing cornerback Devon Witherspoon. So DK Metcalf might have a little bit of an easier matchup today. Juwan Jennings, Trent Williams, they are going to be both active for San Francisco. Andrew Thomas didn't play week 1. He's not going to play week 2 for the Giants. And Jack Conklin with the Browns out. So as well, just something to keep in mind for that Cleveland Browns running game. All right, I'm going to give out my final touchdown bet of the show, and I'm going to the Jaguars. Chris Raybon, he was all over this last week. I'm taking it. Trevor Lawrence, anytime touchdown. I grabbed it at plus 550. I'm going to drink the Kool-Aid. The coach speak has gotten me too caught up in this, Nick, because Liam Cohen has talked about them practicing the tush push, how he's excelled when they've practiced it. He ran the ball 4 times in the opener. Frankly, he didn't really need to run against the Panthers. That game was a complete mess with that huge delay. The Bengals, though, on the other hand, I think that could force the Jags to have to really push the ball downfield and score some more points, which again just provides more upside for Lawrence to maybe score a touchdown. Also, just worth noting, just looking back at both historical matchups against the Bengals, do you know that he scored a rushing touchdown against them in both games in his career in 2021 and 2023? I just find that funny. But for me, this is an odds play. Anything over plus 500 for me, I think Trevor Lawrence is where you want to grab him. So Trevor Lawrence at plus 550. Let's do a parlay for this. But before we do, I want to remind everybody, if you're on Twitter or X, we still have a great new feature here at Action Network, and it's called Playbook. So if you see a bet from any of your favorite action experts, anyone on gambling, Twitter or X, just tag Playbook underneath if you want to tail. Our AI bot will build you a bet slip at the sportsbook of your choice, and you don't have to try and find the menu or find the bets that all these different parlay legs are under and all that good stuff. So use Playbook and build your bets the easy way. All right, Nick, parlay time. I say we got to use your Tillman bet. The fact that you were on it, I've already tailed you with it. Grant's on it. I don't want to have FOMO on that. I want that on the parlay. But Tyler Warren, I think right now, I think he could be in a good spot, especially because, again, we've already talked about how we're not really feeling the Pittman-Pierce angle here, and that Daniel Jones will probably have to spread it around a little bit more. So I like Tyler Warren in this spot. And I think we could put Roma Dunze as well. He's around plus 245. When you put those 3 together, that's a 66 to 1 parlay at DraftKings, dude.
Let's go. Yeah, I love it. I think, Daniel Jones, Danny Dimes, he loves throwing to his tight ends. So Tyler Warren is going to be targeted heavily. And, Rome against man coverage. Lions play a lot of man still. I love it.
Yeah, and then Tillman against the Ravens I think is primed for a huge matchup here. So again, we dropped the link in the YouTube chat for this parlay that'll help you immediately build it, get it added to your bet slip. All right, Nick, that's all for today. Action Playbook Live, week 2. We're in the books, locked and loaded. Action Playbook Live will be back here every Sunday from now until the Super Bowl. We're going to be live here on the Action Network YouTube channel at 11 a.m. Eastern. Don't forget, we have Action Island tomorrow for Monday Night Football. It is a double header. We're going to have some parlays and picks for that. Now, if you missed today's show for Action Playbook Live and you want to get our picks, download the Action app. All of our bets are tracked there. You can get them as soon as we bet them with pick notifications. So I want to thank you again for joining us for Action Playbook Live for NFL Week 2. Bon chance.